Well, for Tim Flynn, he might as well not go too far, the head coach at Edinburgh, because we're now going to 133. Ricky Deubel against Jimmy Conroy of the University of Pittsburgh. Deubel out of Chagrin Falls, two-time Ohio State champ, two-time national qualifier. Sat out 2 years ago with a redshirt year. The big word on him, the young guy at Edinburgh, is that he's having trouble sustaining his stamina and things late in matches. That was a year ago. Well, now it's a little different.
Well, you know, I think that's a challenge for everybody. When you're talking about moving up into the upper level of contending to be an All-American and wanting a real chance at a national title, and it is a conditioning aspect to some degree, but a lot of it is a mentality. It's a mindset of really working to push yourself through all the way through 7 minutes, even in matches where you might not feel that threatened. And because it's not just about, am I going to win this match? It's about an eye toward the future a little bit, and how am I going to train myself for what's coming down the line. To win a national title, what kind of match am I going to have to wrestle to win a national title? What kind of intensity am I going to have to wrestle at? You know, how many shots am I going to have to take before I finish some? How many am I going to have to defend? And here's a nice shot by Conroy. He's in on Deubel pretty well, and he's around the back, and there's a 2-point signal by Mike Millward.
Well, Conroy's 19 and 16 last year. I think snuck up on people at last year's EWLs. He won the championship. He's defending it tonight at 133. One of 3 returning lettermen for the University of Pittsburgh with any NCAA experience. So head coach Randy Stottlemyre kind of in a rebuilding mode with Pitt, but boy, he's got some really exceptionally young looking talent.
Well, and they've got some young guys in the finals tonight, which is very much in terms of looking at a bright future for how they're going to look at competing over the years. You know, they had a national champion last year in Guerin, who was a runner-up in the year previous, and you know, staying up on top like that is definitely challenging, and Coach Stottlemyre is doing a good job of bringing people in that can keep Pitt within that framework.
Expect this to go right down to the final seconds here at 133. These two are evenly matched. You know, as our great crew here shows, when they go and you see these guys like side by side, shoulder to shoulder, it doesn't look like much is going on camera when you're watching at home, but the exertion and just how they wear each other out, it's really tough down there.
Well, you're constantly fighting for position, and there's a little bit of a shot by Deubel, but kind of a little too far outside, not able to get in. Conroy's able to counter that. And now they're in that kind of front headlock, and probably get a stalemate here, and there it is by Mike Millward. You know, you're constantly fighting for that position, and if you relax there at all, you're going to see somebody get taken down. And at this level, that's not going to happen all, especially the finals EWL tournament. You're going to have people fight to be in every position all the time, and you expend a lot of energy like that.
Conroy shut out Billy Ashnault of Lockhaven 4-0 in the semifinals. Deubel got by Jason Gaffey of Bloomsburg 5-2 in the semis. Ashnault of Lockhaven had been on fire. He won over John Pavoda of Cleveland State on a fall pretty early in at 4:40 and was red hot. Conroy put that out convincingly earlier today.
Bring it in, Red. Come on.
Well, you can see it's tight. 2-1. Scoring's going to be tough.
Well, and they wrestled just a few weeks prior to this when Edinburgh was wrestling Pitt. Pitt went up to Edinburgh. 4-3 match there. So you expect this to be pretty tight here. Now, Deubel won that match. 4-3 sounds
about right.
Yeah, Deubel won that match. Of course, they were wrestling in Edinburgh. This is obviously more of a neutral site for the two of them. So, and so far right now, Conroy on top, 2-1 as we wind out here in the first period.
Well, Deubel from Kenston High School in Chagrin Falls, Cleveland State country, and you know, there's Walls Jesuit up there, there's St. Ed's. It's unbelievable, and they cross over state lines and wrestle in Pennsylvania all the time, and they host a lot of Pennsylvania teams up in the Cleveland area. There you get a look at Conroy out of South Plainfield, New Jersey.
Get him set. Hands down, don't move. Red,
and Blair Economy, and you know, Jersey boys know what's going on. They also cross over state lines as well.
Well, they're, you know, these coaches, they're competitive. They'll go anywhere to get somebody if they can bring them in. And So you're not going to find a lot of people from within a 50-mile radius of where everybody at school is. And that's probably true throughout the country.
There's an escape for Conroy.
Nice job, man. Get in here. Set.
That wasn't easy because Deubel was ready to just kind of flip him over.
Well, and if Deubel wants to make some noise here in this match, he's going to need a takedown. Probably here in this period would be the better idea of it. You know, Conroy's starting to split that score a little bit, 3-1, and he's been keeping Deubel really out of any offense. Conroy's been the one mostly on the attack.
No, let's go.
Stalemate is called right there. A lot of time the official, and Mark Millward is one of the best. They'll let those guys kind of work it out right on that end line in there. I mean, sometimes I've seen a toe in, and that's it. The only body part that's in, and points scored and matches won.
That's exactly right. Now, in that particular situation, you know, you had Conroy was pretty much facing out of bounds. And one of the things as an official, one of the judgments is, are they going to wrestle here, or is somebody just trying to hold out and just click some time off the clock? And if they get that sense a lot of times, they'll blow a stalemate, bring him back into the middle, make that fresh start.
Come on. Work out of that. Work out of that.
Crowd reacting to another match, one of the consolations. The one thing about the Edinburgh guys, another stalemate called, but they're outstanding right on that end line, and especially with their footwork and their scoring points in tight spaces.
Well, you really, I mean, that takes some practice. You really have to learn how to wrestle all the way through on the boundary. You know, it used to be, if you were barely out of bounds, you're out of bounds. Now, if there's hardly anything in bounds, you're still in bounds. As long as things are initiated, it's the one little point that stays in bounds, you can still score. So a lot of points given up on the boundary, and sometimes that is, Jed, because the guy that's being defensive there, sometimes he tries to turn and just sort of get away and leaves a leg and arm behind that allows the other person to capitalize and score points. So that has really changed the sport over the last couple years, that wrestling on the boundary. And Conroy is just content to just kind of hang out and kind of hold on to Deubel. Deubel's got to do a little better job of changing some angles in order to score some points.
Red's going down. Hands and knees set, Red. Let's go, guys. Set.
Well, here's an idea of what we're talking about with Conroy. Getting the escape point, and it's a huge point in this match. It's airtight.
Well, Deubel just tried to pop him up in the air, and Conroy hooked him with that leg and was able to get hand control when he got back up and gets himself an escape. And there you see Deubel basically do the same thing, very similar. Gets himself, there's a nice shot.
He's been working to try and get in there.
Right. You see Conroy's hips come down on him real hard and just really work to try to bury his head and his shoulder down into the mat. You can see him kind of twisting and turning to the other side and trying to stretch Deubel out, and we're going to get a stalemate. A good shot, good penetration, and at the same time, when you get in there, if you stop, especially on somebody that can counter really well, you're going to get in trouble. You're not going to finish a lot of those takedowns that way.
That's a real consistent whistle, too, from Mark Millward, the referee. I mean, he's in there. Both of these wrestlers know what they can and cannot do and what he expects as far as their style, and basically get aggressive.
Work in.
Well, their job is to make sure some action's going on out there. And
no action. Let's go.
And if he doesn't see any, he blows the whistle and puts him back in the middle. So, you know, Mike does a pretty good job of those things from a wrestling family, you know, and been in the sport a long time, so he's very knowledgeable about those things himself.
How big's the next takedown? Probably the winner of the match if he can get
one. If there is another takedown, it very well, especially if it's Conroy, that splits the score pretty good. You know, I think in a lot of ways, if you can get 2 takedowns in a match, particularly in the finals, especially when you're wrestling people that are real high quality, if you can get 2 takedowns, you're going to win probably 90% of the matches that you're in. So that's really huge. There's a shot, nice shot by Deubel. Doesn't quite get around the corner very well. Conroy counters it, and he can't finish that, and they're out of bounds again.
Well, you're right about Conroy. He is so comfortable right on those end lines right there. Either he can go out and take some of the pressure off himself, but he really, really is adroit over there.
Well, there's a warning for stalling. And probably a good call by Mike Millward. Conroy really hasn't initiated a lot in the last The last minute and a half, probably since the latter half of the second period.
That's huge as we're going down the stretch here in this match at 133.
He's in on the leg, and he's going to get himself a takedown.
Ooh, that's picked. That should do it.
Well,
Conroy will defend his title at 133, grinding out a tough 5-2 decision against Ricky Deubel.
Well, and Deubel was getting a little desperation there, and all those shots he took were on the edge as opposed to in the middle of the mat, and there he just kind of snapped him in out of desperation, snapped him on his own leg, and Conroy finishes for a takedown.
What's that? Meet me in St. Louis, I believe.
That's exactly
I think they
right.
might see there at 125. We'll return with more at 141. You're watching the Eastern League Wrestling Championships at Lock Haven University's Thomas Fieldhouse. We'll be right back.